All right, welcome back to REIFY Recap. This session, we are on action. This is where we learn how to make a move. Problem is, for many, if not most of us, it is incredibly difficult to make that leap from having a game plan, having a good, solid plan of action, and leaping into actually acting on that game plan. There's so many times when we have that game plan down, we set it up on the wall, and we take a step back, we look at it, and we're like, all right, that's awesome. And then we see something wrong with it, we see something we need to fix, and we get into this habit of constantly fixing and improving our game plan, and we never actually jump into action. How do you make that leap from perpetual planning into actual action? That's what we're going to be looking at today. Or maybe that's not your problem. Maybe you're one of those people who just jump right from dream, right from that very first step into action, and you don't do all the steps that you need in the meantime. No clarifying your vision, no developing an actionable game plan from idea to action every single time. How does that play out for you? You may see initial success. After all, God designed the universe to reward action with results. But if you don't have those first 3 steps in place that we've talked about, your success will not be sustained. If you haven't laid a solid foundation, your actions will be sporadic and frenzied and without true direction, and your results will reflect that state. You have got to practice every step along the pathway if you want to see lasting results. You've got to commit fully if you want long-term fulfillment of your endeavors. Once you've got the foundation in place, act away. All right, so action. How do you make it happen? Isn't there something like you just got to do it? Yeah, it seems simple enough, and really it is. When it comes to taking action, you got to do it, or it won't happen. Problem is, as much as that makes sense, it's a lot easier said than done. Why is that the case? Well, it's often because we have actually acted, we have actually taken action in the past. Look at kids. Kids, they just act all the time. But the more we act, the more things don't go our way. The more we're hurt by our actions. And the more we hurt others by our actions. Eventually, as we become aware of this, as we grow and mature, it becomes more and more difficult for us to act. Even as adults, we still act, but here's the behavior pattern. We act, and then we react, and then react, and then react. And we react in one of 2 ways. Either each reaction gets bigger and bigger and bigger and more extreme and more dramatic until it completely derails and we crash, or each reaction gets smaller and smaller and smaller until you're not doing anything and you're right back where you started. Either way, the result is the same. Inevitably, we stop acting. We only act when absolutely necessary. We act to survive, not to thrive. We act to maintain the status quo. When faced with an opportunity for massive growth and success, we just can't make the jump. The number one obstacle to successful action is pain avoidance. So now that we understand that, how do we transcend it? How do we embody courage over fear? How do we create the confidence to make that leap into action? We explored 3 ways to do that in the last session, so it is crucial and worth reviewing. But beyond that, I'm about to give you the foolproof formula for massive, sustained, successful action. Here we go. Number 1, act. Act. Do it. Number 2, and here's the important part, analyze. Number 3, adjust. Number 4, act again. Number 5, analyze again. Then adjust again. Then act again. And repeat the process. You see, when you react, you've got 2 steps down actually, but you're missing the one in the middle. The absolutely fundamental, crucial, cannot under any circumstance be ignored missing step is analyzation. Often, when an action doesn't go our way, we want to just move on and forget about it as quickly as possible. We want to run from that cringe feeling at full speed. We want to bury the pain and just not think about it. Move on to safer things. But if you will commit to analyzing and evaluating your actions and their results, and then adjust based on what you've learned, I promise you, you will begin to recognize massive difference in how your choices play out. So, how do we analyze our actions? By now, you should know the rule. We're going to write things down. If you're just reflecting and not writing, you are missing out on massive amounts of value that you can get through these practices. So here we go. Write out the answers to 7 questions. Question number 1, what did I just do? Hold yourself accountable. Write out even the embarrassing parts. Question number 2, did I actually do what I wanted to do? Did I actually do what I intended to do? Be honest with yourself. No BS. Number 3, what was I expecting to happen? Don't settle for the first answer that you want to write down. Get real with yourself and dig deep. What was I really expecting to happen through this? Number 4, why didn't my actions create my expected outcome? Again, don't settle for the first answer that you write down. Be honest with yourself and be as thorough as possible. Number 5, how can I improve my desired outcome? Could my expectations have been more clear? How? Could my expectations have been more specific? How? Could my expectations have been more aligned with who I truly am? How? Number 6, how can I then improve my actions? Did my actions need a more clear direction? How? Again, this follow-up how is really, really important. This is an open-ended question that requires a lot of thinking and really thinking through this rather than just a yes or no answer, okay? Did my actions need more clear direction? How? Did my actions need to be more specific? How? Did my actions need to be less specific, less limited? How? Did my actions need to be more consistent? How? Could my actions have been more aligned with who I truly am? How? Question number 7. What will I do next time I'm faced with a choice like this? Make a habit of analyzing your actions and outcomes and adjusting based on what you learn, and you will begin to see powerful results. Now, all that tends to work well when you can plan ahead, when you've got the time and opportunity to actually sit down and plan ahead. But what about when you find yourself in unexpected circumstances that require fast or even immediate action? How do you face that type of situation? I've got a powerful formula for that as well, but it's something you've got to practice and improve over time. So I give it to you right now, but it's going to take some practice before it feels natural and it really maintains that, or really reaches that full level of power that it can have. So let's reverse engineer this. Ultimately, you want to be able to act fast but productively in unexpected circumstances. You want to be able to make healthy, decisive choices quickly and efficiently. In order to do that, you need self-confidence. You need assuredness and confidence in your ability to make wise choices as quickly as possible. In order to do that, you need to be in a state of full integrity with who you are, your morals, values, and how you desire to treat others. In order to do that, you need to develop self-awareness and self-intimacy. This requires preparation. It requires consistent practice now so that when that moment presents itself, you're ready. It requires spending significant amounts of time getting to know yourself at the deepest levels so that when you're faced with a situation that requires a fast, decisive choice, you're prepared to act in full authenticity to who you are as a follower of the way of Jesus and all that he created you to be. For many, that thought is incredibly uncomfortable. We don't really want to get to know ourselves, especially as Christians. It's easy to say, oh, I know myself. My flesh is weak. I just need God to show me what to do, and I'll trust him and do whatever he says. No need to actually do any extra work on myself. I'll let God do a mighty work through me. But that's just not how God created us to be. It's not how he created us to function in a relationship with him. He does want to work mightily through us, but he requires us to do the necessary work to be a vessel so that we can handle his mighty, wonder-working power. If we don't do the work to prepare ourselves, the power of the Spirit will blow a fuse and we'll be out. So, how do we begin to develop this self-awareness? I've got good news for you. If you've been practicing the steps and the strategies from every session, you're well on your way. If you haven't, no problem, but now you know. Every session of REIFY, even beyond the 7 steps, is and will be designed to help you do exactly that. But I'm not going to leave you hanging for today, so here's a quick 5-step strategy for making quick and effective choices. Ask yourself, number 1, what is everything that I already know about this situation? You can't act effectively if you don't understand the situation you're facing. Now, don't let this be a stall tactic. But ask yourself, what is everything I know about this situation? Number 2, is there anything more that I absolutely must learn before I can make an effective choice? Don't underestimate the value of spending a little time getting further information when it's needed, even if you're under a time crunch. If you don't have all the information that you need to make an effective choice, you're not going to make an effective choice. So even when you're under that time crunch, take the time you need to learn all the extra information you can that you don't already have. Number 3, ask yourself, what is my desired outcome? Number 4, can I make this desired outcome any more clear or concise than I already have? Number 5, act. And that means do it right now. The more time you allow to pass between decision to act and the actual action, the more daunting that action will become. Choose carefully and then act quickly. Finally, let's talk failure. First off, understand that there is no value in the fear of failure. It doesn't help. As a matter of fact, if you fear that you will suffer, you're already suffering what you fear. You're already experiencing that pain just without an actual event to justify it. And there's no constructive value in that. So how do you address fear of failure? Focus on your vision and on your game plan. Focus on the promises of God in the scriptures. Focus on communion with God, your source and sustenance through prayer and fasting. Now, let me tell you the secret to never failing again in your life. This is awesome. Here it is. Failure is one thing and only one thing. When you quit trying. That's it. Failure is when you give up. If you don't give up, if you don't quit, you're not actually failing. Oh, things will definitely go wrong sometimes, don't get me wrong, but you'll face setbacks, sometimes huge setbacks, sometimes devastating setbacks, but unanticipated results isn't a failure unless you let them defeat you, unless you give up and stop trying. Instead, focus on learning everything you can from every experience. Remember what I've said about setbacks. A setback is simply information I didn't have the first time. Now I know. When your focus is to learn from every experience, you are actually leveraging your setbacks and transforming them into massive value. That's powerful. When every mistake, setback, and unexpected consequence actually becomes wisdom and opportunity for growth. If you apply that, and I mean really put that into action and let it sink deep into your psyche so it becomes a part of who you are at the core of your being, you're going to be unstoppable.